All right, so we're here today at Blossom Bluffs Farm with Bryce. He's a generational farmer, and this is your grandparents' land originally, right?
Actually, my great-grandparents originally bought the farm, so I'm fourth generation.
That's absolutely incredible,
Yeah.
and you're carrying on a huge tradition. And this farm is kind of like a library of diversity. And how did that happen?
Well, it started off years and years ago when my great-grandparents, they were German immigrants, they were farm workers. They were actually migrant workers, from Germany, not Mexico, like most of our migrant workers here are now. But they scrimped and saved and borrowed enough to buy about, I think, a 30-acre block that we're on right now. And then over the generations, my grandfather took over for them and added acreage to the farm, buying up neighbor farms. When my dad got involved in the early 90s, the farm was 50 acres, I believe, total. And since then, we've acquired a couple other small plots, and now we're a total of 80 acres. When my grandfather was running things here, it was very common practice to have a relatively small farm. 50 acres around here is, for tree fruit, is relatively small. And at the time he was doing it, it worked. The system worked in a way that you could grow just maybe 15 or 20 varieties over the course of the summer in 4 or 5 acre blocks, and then pick those varieties and pack them and let a distributor take them to market, and that's just kind of how it worked. When my dad got involved in the 90s, that was the time when large mega farms were starting to come on the scene, and distribution and pricing got to be a lot more complicated. A lot of those guys are controlling prices or deciding whether or not to buy specific varieties in favor of selling their own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So his thinking and our current thinking is to operate on a farm the size we have. Direct marketing is our best bet. So,
So you do a CSA?
We don't actually. We have done a CSA in the past. We currently sell to a lot of CSAs, or not a lot, but several CSAs. We don't operate our own right now. We found it to be a really fun and engaging endeavor, but ultimately the effort involved was taking up a lot of time that we thought could be better spent on quality control and on some of our other direct marketing ventures.
Right, and so you do the farmers market.
So we do the farmers markets. We do several farmers markets. One locally here in Fresno that we met at, and we also do several in the Bay Area, mostly San Francisco, Berkeley, and Oakland. During the summer, we were doing. Currently, we were at 5 markets at our per week at total. We have done as many as 12, but there again, we learned over the years that focusing on doing a few things really well ultimately probably makes more sense than trying to really spread ourselves thin and attack all the markets. So actually the main source of, or our main outlet is direct sales to stores and restaurants. So we do a lot of our own selling and trucking of fruit to grocery stores in the Bay Area, restaurants in the Bay Area, and that sort of thing. So that's mainly what we're
right.
selling.
And with your diversity, I'm sure that there's plenty of restaurants that are featuring it because they can't get it anywhere else, right?
That's the plan. Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, and it's worked out really well for us, and I think for them, it's a mutually beneficial to everyone.
So when did the diversity arrive? Was that something that you guys had always valued throughout the generations, or was it something rather new? Because I think it's fantastic that it was always perennial.
Yeah.
And what was it? Was it chemical and then or conventional and at one point and then went back?
Yeah. So first off, the diversity really came with the decision to direct market at farmers markets, and that happened in the early 90s when my dad took over the farm. That was largely for display purposes, just having a nice display of different things throughout the summer. To begin with, it was mostly just the summer we were focused on. so we started planting and growing different things to fill slots. Along the way, we found that a lot of the stuff we were picking to grow, we either really liked or didn't care much for. So our own preference drove a lot of what we decided as far as what we wanted to grow, flavor-wise.
Did you go through and regraft and
Yeah.
replace? Oh wow, okay.
We did a lot of grafting. We still do a lot of grafting. There are kind of pluses and minuses involved with grafting as far as the integrity of the tree goes, but we've had really good luck with it in general, and it gets you into production quicker, and yeah, it's a good way to kind of have a maintained bank of genetics that you can draw from. So if we decide, this block of fail Alberta peaches are starting to fail, or getting too old, they're having too many problems, we can take signwood from those trees and graft it onto younger trees that we've decided for whatever reason we don't want to continue with, or we can plant new rootstock and graft onto that. Yeah, so that's generally how we keep the diversity going and maintain our inventory of varieties that we really like. To answer the second part of your question, the farm was chemical. I prefer to say chemical than conventional because I think it's a little more honest. It went through the same green revolution, quote unquote, that most farms in the area went through. It started off pretty organic, just like back in the 31 when the farm was originally bought by my great grandparents. There weren't a whole lot of chemicals being used, anyways.
Right.
When
I mean, how can you afford it, right?
That too. Yeah, absolutely. Status quo is kind of what the generations followed. My grandfather was a great farmer. I wish I had spent more time learning from him, but he was a conventional chemical farmer. I think he was very smart about what he did, partially for the economic reason because those things are expensive, but also we've always lived here on the farm, and we don't, unlike a lot of the big farms that operate that don't have people actually populating the place where the food's being grown, we're concerned about what we're breathing and what we're doing to the land because we're living here,
Absolutely.
I think that's one valuable thing about family farms, the connection to the property, because it's not only a source of income for the family, but it's also the environment you're living in. I think you're more likely to make those right decisions about how to grow things. So, when my dad got involved, when we started doing the direct marketing, we transitioned from conventional to something called California Clean, which is kind of a midpoint between conventional and organic. And then ultimately we got our organic certification for the whole farm in, I believe it was 07 or 08. I can't remember for sure. But
Okay.
We're currently certified organic across the board on the whole farm. So.
Okay, and so what fruit do you focus on?
Well, our bread and butter is summer fruit, stone fruit, peaches, plums, nectarines, apricots. We do a lot of hybrids too, like pluots. There's some new hybrids like picatum, which is a peach apricot plum cross, and apriums, which are essentially the opposite of a pluot. And we get the vast majority of our trees from Dave Wilson Nursery, who also are the home of Zager Genetics. Floyd Zager's got created so many of the amazing hybrids that we're enjoying now, the pluots.
Okay, wow, awesome.
So yeah, that's where a lot of our stuff comes from. We also have some old varieties like the Alberta, the O'Henry, Mariposa plums, Elephant Heart plums. Really, really excellent old varieties that, in our opinion, have stood the test of time, although they've become less available on the wholesale market because of handling or productivity or all these other kind of financial reasons. But we love the way they taste, and that's why we keep growing those things.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's go check out some of these varieties.
Sounds good.